Welcome to Shujin Academy VGM Club. I'm Professor Tom, your faculty sponsor. Today's opening track is Sword of the Valiant, Knight, from Treasure of the Rudras, composed by Ryuji Sasai. Treasure of the Rudras was Square's last game for the Super Famicom, and its plot revolves around a group of heroes who have 15 days to save humanity from extinction. I don't know how things are going for you at the time you're listening to this podcast, but for me right now, while I'm putting it together, things feel very ominous. I'm an anxious person, so even on my best days I live with the feeling that something horrific could happen, and right now I'm paying enough attention to current events to know that there are multiple horrific things that could happen, potentially at once. I need to feel like things can improve. I need to feel like this dark time will eventually pass. I need hope. When I say that, I don't mean bright-eyed optimism or a double-barreled blast of happiness. I mean the confidence to endure the trials and tribulations of the present, going about my life with the belief that I can help craft a worthwhile future for myself and the people around me. And so, in order to help with that, this episode is about songs that feel hopeful. These are hopeful songs, but that doesn't mean they're 100% happy or perky. I've done 3 episodes of feel-good songs like that, and I'm sure I'll do a 4th someday. These songs are often upbeat, but they're also very determined. Nearly all of them are from JRPGs, because those games tend to feature long sections of plot where the protagonists need to carry on through extreme difficulties to eventually prevail. And most of them are from franchises I love or games we've visited before, because I find comfort in the familiar. Speaking of familiar franchises, the first block starts with Road to the Summit from Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster, composed by Nobuo Uematsu and rearranged for modern consoles by Masaya Tsunemoto. Here in the West, Final Fantasy III is probably the least known of all the main series installments. The game was not officially available in North America until it received a remake for the Nintendo DS in 2006. It's an interesting game to play nowadays because it introduced the job system into the franchise, which would be used later by Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy Tactics. Sticking with Final Fantasy games, our second song comes from multi-platform spin-off World of Final Fantasy. We've heard from composer Masashi Hamauzu's excellent soundtrack for this game multiple times before, and I'm playing another song from it today with Lann's melody. I really like the way Hamauzu incorporates percussion into this song. For the third song in the block, we'll listen to something from the Chrono Trigger soundtrack. It'll be Too Far Away Times, which is the game's ending theme, and it was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. Somehow, I have made 58 episodes of this show, and this is only the 3rd Chrono Trigger song I have played. I said that this episode was very heavy on JRPG music, and I meant it, because after the song from Chrono Trigger, you'll be hearing Field to Tomorrow from Lunar 2, Eternal Blue Complete, for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn, composed by Noriyuki Iwadare. Eternal Blue Complete is a remaster of the original Lunar 2 that came out for the Sega CD, and the game features a ton of voice acting and anime cutscenes that really showed off what the CD format could do. The fifth song in the block is actually not from a JRPG. Instead, it's from a fighting game. The game is Street Fighter III Second Impact, which has an excellent soundtrack that often gets ignored because its follow-up is one of the greatest fighting game soundtracks ever. The song is Sharp Eyes, piano mellow version, and it's the stage theme for Ibuki, the game's teenage schoolgirl ninja. This song was composed by the great Hideki Okugawa, who also worked on the Onimusha games. Finally in the block, we have a song from Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner 2, Raidou Kuzunoha vs. King Abaddon for the PlayStation 2, a game with an inordinately long title that features a soundtrack from show favorite composer Shoji Meguro. This is a very brassy song that feels both upbeat and determined, starting with rock guitars and then introducing a horn section. Let's hear some songs. Those songs were Road to the Summit from Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster, Lann's Melody from World of Final Fantasy, Too Far Away Times from Chrono Trigger, Field to Tomorrow from Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete, Sharp Eyes Piano Mellow version from Street Fighter III Second Impact, and finally, Determination from Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner 2 Raidou Kuzunoha vs. King Abaddon. The second block of songs starts off with a track from arcade shoot-'em-up Life Force, which is a spin-off of the Gradius games. The song is called Fly High, Second Stage BGM, and it's from composer Miki Higashino, who also worked on the original Gradius and some of the other games in the franchise. This game looks and sounds amazing, and it would have been mind-blowing when it was released back in 1986. Check it out via emulation, or you can play it on modern consoles as a part of the Konami Arcade Classics Anniversary Collection. Moving back into JRPGs, the second song in the second segment is Underground Castle from Soul Blazer on the Super Nintendo, composed by Yukihide Takekawa. Takekawa is known more as an anime composer than a game composer, but this soundtrack is very good, and this track is a real highlight. Soul Blazer is the first game in a loosely connected trilogy of Super NES games, and fellow VGM podcasters CRT Sound System did a deep dive episode into those games a few months ago. I'll link to that in the show notes. When I put together playlists for the show, I try to strike a balance between playing songs from well-known games and more obscure titles. Final Fantasy VII is about as well-known as games get, and for the block's third song, we'll hear Cid's theme. Every Final Fantasy game has a Cid character, and when you meet this Cid, he's a bitter man who's resentful about the fact that his dreams of being an astronaut were crushed. Cid's story arc is about him reclaiming a sense of hope, and this soaring track feels like taking off to the heavens. Just in case you need me to say it, Cid's theme was composed by Nobuo Uematsu. The fourth song in the block is To a Foreign Land from Fire Emblem Fates for the 3DS, composed by Hiroki Morishita. The story for Fire Emblem Fates was split into 3 different campaigns, which were split into 2 separate cartridges, and to play the whole thing, you had to buy both carts and then purchase the third campaign as DLC. This was either an ambitious move in storytelling on Nintendo's part, or a naked cash grab, but whichever one it was, the game was quite good, and the soundtrack is quite good. The last song in the block sees us going from the 3DS to its predecessor, the Nintendo DS, with A Wish for Peace from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time and Darkness. Although I haven't played this game, the soundtrack runs the gamut of emotions, which is why it's been featured multiple times on this show, and this is a quietly hopeful song that fits perfectly on this playlist. The composers for this game are Arata Iyoshi, Hideki Sakamoto, Keisuke Ito, Kenichi Saito, and Yoshihiro Maeda. Maybe these songs can carry us through to a better tomorrow. Those songs were Fly High from the arcade version of Life Force, Underground Castle from Soul Blazer, Sid's Theme from Final Fantasy VII, To a Foreign Land from Fire Emblem Fates, and A Wish for Peace from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time and Darkness. Normally, this is the time in the show where I play an ad from one of my sponsors to help maintain my lavish video game music podcaster lifestyle. But today, I'm choosing to forego a lucrative payday, and instead, I've got a public service announcement. If you're unhappy with things that are happening, please take action. Donate money or time to a candidate you support or a nonprofit working for a cause you believe in. Call or write your local politicians. Go to a protest rally. Do something. It can make a difference. I don't really want to turn this into a podcast that's explicitly about current events, since there are a lot of other shows that do that far more eloquently than I can, so let's get back to video game music. Our final music block starts with Horizon of Light and Shadow from Bravely Default for the 3DS, a game that's a spiritual successor to the job system games in the Final Fantasy franchise, like Final Fantasy III that started off our first block. This game's composer is known as Revo, and he also does work under the names Sound Horizon and Linked Horizon. Revo is an independent musician first and foremost, and an anime composer second. As far as I can tell from my admittedly brief research, the only game soundtracks he's worked on are Bravely Default and Bravely Default 2. Sometimes, the best way to deal with a problem is through direct action and confrontation, and the second song in the block is about doing exactly that. The song is To Arms, from Genesis strategy RPG Shining Force 2, part of Sega's sprawling series of games with Shining in the title. Motoaki Takenouchi is the composer on this one, and not only did he work on Shining Force 2, he also worked on several other games in the franchise, including the Shining Force Gaiden games for the Game Gear, Shining Force CD for the Sega CD, and the eccentric soundtrack for Shining Wisdom on the Saturn. For the third song, we'll shift to a more reserved mood with Surrounded by Forest 1 from Treasure Hunter G for the Super Famicom, composed by Mitsuhito Tanaka. He does not have a lot of credits, but his work on Treasure Hunter G is some top-notch game music. I should sit down and go through some of his other soundtracks sometime. The penultimate song in our block is from Super Nintendo action RPG Brainlord, composed by Masanao Akahori. This is an optimistic brassy tune from a soundtrack that's a little underrated. I've featured it a couple of times before, and I have reasons to suspect that fellow game music podcaster Hammock of KVGM is also a fan of this soundtrack. The last song in the block comes from an unlikely source. It'll be Always Been But Never Dreamed from multiplatform game Tetris Effect, composed by Hedelic, with vocals from Kathleen Brady. This is a soaring song that reaches straight up to the heavens and inspires you, reminding us all that a better tomorrow is possible if we're willing to fight for it.
Come follow me. I'll show you the side of the world, the places that you've never seen. Come follow me. Come follow me. I'll show you the side of yourself, the person that you've always been, but never dreamed.
Those songs were Horizon of Light and Shadow from Bravely Default, To Arms from Shining Force 2, Surrounded by Forest 1 from Treasure Hunter G, Natural Cavern from Brainlord, and finally, Always Been But Never Dreamed from Tetris Effect. That's the show. If you want to reach me, I'm most active on Blue Sky as shujinacademy.bsky.social. You can also find me on Threads, Tumblr, or Instagram as Shujin Academy VGM Club. I'm on Mastodon at Shujin Academy VGM Club at mastodon.coffee, and my username on Discord is Professor Tom. All episodes of the show are posted to my YouTube channel, which you can find by searching for Shujin Academy VGM Club. You can email me at shujinacademyvgmclub@gmail.com. Links to everything are available on my Linktree at linktr.ee/shujinacademy. Please leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're finding this episode. New episodes are released once or twice a month, depending on how often I get them done, and they premiere on Thursday mornings on your favorite podcatcher and on 8beats.co, the internet's #1 game music radio station. My show is also featured on TerraPlayer, the cool app that's a destination for gaming podcasts and other content, so you can check me out there. Finally, if you just can't get enough of me, I'm voicing esports reporter Samson Escapades on audio drama How Much in Bison Dollars, which you can hear on Spotify and FGC Radio. Speaking of Spotify, if you're listening there, please be aware that they've pulled a few of my episodes before. There's a non-zero chance that they'll eventually pull my entire podcast, as they've done with a few other game music podcasts, so I'd strongly suggest you subscribe elsewhere to be sure you can get all the Professor Tom goodness you crave. Special thanks for this episode goes out to fellow VGM podcaster Jameson of Bar Silence Podcast for contributing cover art. You can and should find Bar Silence wherever you download podcasts, and check out his website at barsilence.com. As always, I've got one last song to play us out. Most of the time I'm putting together an episode, I try to end things with one of the shorter tracks, but I am very much so making an exception today. We are closing with the longest song on this episode's playlist, clocking in at just under 6 minutes. It'll be Brand New Days, which is the ending theme for the epilogue chapter of Persona 3 FES, and it was composed by Shoji Meguro, with lyrics from Yuichiro Tanaka and vocals by Yumi Kawamura. Thank you for listening. I'm Professor Tom, and I'll see you next time on Shujin Academy VGM Club.
Shin.